How well did your onions grow this year? For me, my autumn sown onions done okay, but my spring sown ones were very poor in 2020. Doesn't mean we're not going to try again next year, but at this time of year, it's time to plant our autumn onion sets. And that's what I'm going to be doing today, planting out my onion sets. But to help me, I've made this onion planting dibber. And to make this, what I've done is I've cut this piece of wood down to 1.4 meters so it fits inside every single bed. And I've burned into it onions, so I know it is specifically for onions. And then I've glued a piece of dowels at 10 centimeter intervals on the bottom, of which I've sort of sanded down a bit of an incline on it to try and push into the soil a little bit better. How it's going to work, I don't know. This is a prototype. I've already thought of how I would make this a bit different if I make it again, but I want to find out how well it works. Now, you may recall that last week I mentioned that this bed I added 350 litres of compost into it in order to get it ready for planting onions. I have had to add another 100 litres into this. Now, in theory, all I have to do is push this down into the compost, and as we lift it up, yeah, we've got holes that have dibbed. It seems to have actually worked. I'm happy with that, very happy with that, I've got to say. So let's see if they actually fit some onions in. So this first type of onions I'm actually fitting is called electric, which is a red onion. One I've grown before, very, very popular in our household. And these sets are basically, for those that don't know, small immature bulbs that have already been grown. But all I want to see is, do they fit in? They do, yes, fantastic. And it seems to be about the right height. Now, all I've got to do now is just keep dropping these little onion sets into all the holes that I've dibbed. Idea I'm hoping is that this is just going to make it a little bit quicker, but also look a little bit tidier as these onions grow, in that they should hopefully start to perform straight lines and equal spacing apart. I always struggle with that, and it's something that bugs me when I look at other people's allotments or other people's gardens, how much neater and tidier the straight lines look. Now, that has got my first row of onions into the ground, and that was 14 that were planted using this tool. But I have noticed after its first use, this one here has come a little bit loose, and another one down here has also come a little bit loose. So we've got to rethink the actual attachment. These are just glued on, and I didn't expect them to last, but it's, as I said, it's a prototype and something that I can probably develop and build to make a little bit better. Anyway, I now need to get the rest of these onions into the ground. We've hit a snag. The actual tool itself was working quite well, and then as I pull it down, I accidentally slipped and I've ended up knocking loads of the pegs off. So the principle of the idea I think is quite good, just the execution, the strength of it didn't work out as well. So I've got to get my onions in anyway. We're going to go back and think about what we can do instead. Yeah, a bit disappointing, but the actual idea, I think, has got merit. There's always next year. There's always, actually no, there'll be spring when we get our spring sown ones planted as well. If I can just make it a little bit tougher. I think it was the glue that let me down. Well, that's a little disappointing that the glue didn't hold up. It's quite an expensive, strong glue, but I'm not surprised at the same point. This gives me something that I can try and improve upon for next week when I plant out the garlic. So come back next week if you want to see my improvements I've made to this tool. The actual implementation, I thought, will work out quite nicely, and we can see as these onions grow, just how much better they look compared to the one row that we actually got in without any problems, and see how they perform later on. Now I should say I'm just now adding a sprinkling of bone meal to this bed in order to add some of these bit of feed to the onion bed in order to help them grow. I think that's just about enough bone meal added. So what I've got now, final thing to do today with this is just give it a really good watering. That way it gets it off to a good start. I know we are expecting rain this week, which should help. And of course what I've got to do is keep an eye regularly that the birds don't come along and pull out some of my onions. If they do, I've just got to pop them back in. And then eventually as they grow and they show, what I will then do is mulch these with a good layer of grass clippings. Again, to hold on to some of that moisture. I find that my onions did so well last year in 2022 because of that mulch. I used Strolch, which was a really good one to use. So I might use that instead of grass clippings. I'm not sure yet. You've got me thinking what might be better. But grass clippings do work. They just helped contain some of that moisture in. I didn't do that with my spring sown onions, and I think that's why they failed. Well, that is it for this video. Let me know in the comments what onions you're growing, how you're growing them, and how well your previous onions have worked for you. I'd love to find out a bit more about what everyone else is doing with that. Podcast is out this week, and this week I'm talking about the use of leaves in the garden, leaf fall. And we did a live show on Sunday that I'm doing later on this evening, which we're talking about seed storage. And we're going to do another one next Sunday as well. So it'd be great to see you come along for that as well. Right, until next time, please take care.